Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So this is book tastings for 2024. My name is Jennifer.
I'm Karen.
Hi. We do have people online, so they're, welcome to listen and they can see. We have our owls in the center right here and they've got their eye cameras. They'll only look at you if you talk. So just keep that in mind. So we're going to be going through a couple of books that we read this year that we really enjoyed, that we recommend, just so that you can maybe have something to go home with. But then we're going to quickly go into books in 2024 that we are very excited about and that you can put on your calendar. Okay. So with that in mind, if you have to duck out early, that's no problem. You can just head on out, phone call, bathroom, whatever you like. This is not a classroom, I promise. Yep. There we go. Okay. So we're going to start with one that we probably all have seen, at least on the news, on the New York Times bestseller. It is everywhere. It's one of the best history books of the year. We have The Wager, A Tale of Shipwreck, Mutiny, and Murder by David Grant. It's been on the New York Times bestseller list for weeks now. It's been just holding steady ever since it was published in April. The author, David Grant, is also the author of Killers of the Flower Moon, which was recently turned into a Martin Scorsese film. So that's kind of helping you keep it in everyone's mind as well. In any case, it's a wonderful, can't put down book. It's a page-turning story of shipwreck, survival, obviously, and ends in a court-martial that reveals a shocking truth about what actually happened on the Wager ship. You'll be completely swept away. Sorry, but it's a true story. It is historical fiction. It's true story, nonfiction. You're in the 18th century naval battles, terrible storms of deadly waves and winds, shipwrecks, mutinies, murders, betrayals, a little bit of cannibalism. Just a tiny bit. All because of these crew tried to go through one of the most treacherous ocean passages in the world. There's a lot to it. It reads kind of almost like a fiction account of what happened, but it is all true based on the author's research. David Grant is a great storyteller. He's got a fantastic gift for timing and description. And as you read this, you get a sense of what life was like on a ship in the 18th century, which is terrible. It's absolutely terrible. Crowded, dangerous, just, it's terrible. You just wonder how anyone actually survived these ships. It's a great story of true adventure, history, survival. You'll like it, I promise you. Even if you aren't really a historical or nonfiction reader, it's enough kind of like a fiction book, a historical fiction book that you'll enjoy it. So if you're looking for engaging historical nonfiction book, this is your company. Sorry,
What passage are they trying to get through? Where?
It's the South America one. So you're going all the way down and they're trying to get up again. That's a murder passage, I'm sorry. But this is before the Panama Canal, where they kind of cut through there. So there's just it's yeah. Great. All right. So we're gonna send it back over to Karen.
A bit of a possibly controversial pick. I know people either really like it or did not like it or did not want to read it. I did read it. So most of us remember that image of the two young princes walking behind their mom's coffin, the whole world just watching, as their mother, who was beloved, was laid to rest. And I think, people who had the interest kind of wondered, what was in store, what was going to happen to these two young boys in their life without their mother. So this book is Harry's story. I was interested and curious about it, although like maybe a little bit skeptical. I was surprised to find that it was relatively literary. And it's probably due to the fact that Harry took advice from his friend George Clooney and hired a ghostwriter, who we know as J.R. Moiringer. That's the right way to pronounce his name. There were many, many intensive interviews that went into producing the book. I think Moiringer did an amazing job of like extracting some of the uncomfortable and painful details in Harry's life, that made it feel so intimate. I thought it was, seemed to be honest, portrayal of his perception of his life as the spare and, kind of wondering what that would be like to be, in that situation where you really are viewed as sort of an extra, kind of like a replacement. So a good portion of the book focused on the pressures of royal life, definite focus on mental health. It seemed like the process was maybe somewhat cathartic for Harry, having seen his story told by many, many others, often incorrectly over the years. That's another thing that the book really deals with is, sort of the public relations aspect of it all, which, was a nightmare. I mean, we know what it's like here, or have some idea of what it's like here in the US and, growing up with that and being in that kind of spotlight and, had to be horrendous. So whatever your interest or lack of interest is in the British monarchy and the royal family, it is difficult to kind of walk away after reading his story without feeling some compassion for his experiences. And I learned, I just happened to, I think it's interesting that I still did not realize some of the workings of the monarchy and the organization and, the fact that he, really couldn't necessarily have a direct conversation, maybe with his dad. He had to, his, aide had to contact another aide to contact somebody else. And there are all of these, different sort of forces at play in there, and everybody's kind of got their own agenda. Is really kind of incredible. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fascinating.
When it had gone along with that you saw the crown.
Yes, although I'm trying to think, I have seen the crown and I'm thinking, was the most up to date more focused on William, right? And there was some aspects with Harry in there, which I'm guessing we'll get more into that, but yeah, I think it was pretty close. Because I feel like, I don't know if any of you guys have watched The Crown, but
You watched it?
yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I'm honest.
Yeah. I think that it's nice because it's not, they do a good job because it's not like completely slanted. I didn't think, there's positives and negatives to probably everyone that they're sort of portraying. Anyway, that's the span.
All right, so back to me. So this is Wayward by Amelia Hart. It was published back in March. This is considered one of the best historical fiction books of the year. It is also Amelia Hart's debut novel. So we'll have to see if she continues to write with the same quality and intrigue as this one was. So it combined elements of women's fiction, historical fiction, and magical realism. Hart expertly weaves 3 different threads of the story into a compelling narrative. So it is told from 3 different perspectives. So if that's an immediate turn off for you, that's okay, but that is what it is primarily all about. You have Kate, who is present day London. You have Violet, who is in World War II. And finally, all the way back to Alpha's story in 1619. The accused witch, who started it all, who started the journey for all of the women after her, of her lineage. This is not your typical witch story. Each woman is oppressed for being different, for being strange, and for being wayward in a man's world. Has very good characterization, vivid imagery, atmospheric setting, and simple yet elegant writing. It's not too flourishy with its descriptions. Very immersive reading experience. I did enjoy that. The narrative has very strong feminist tones. And does not hesitate to highlight, the patriarchy that each of these women have to experience in their own times. So Hart shows personal growth in her characters and the resilience of the three women and the comfort and strength they must harness in order to survive, especially with their nature. Nature is a very big theme, as you can see from the cover, which is a gorgeous cover.
I was just gonna say, lovely.
So while it's not always a happy story, because you have, instances of abuse, domestic abuse, misogyny, because, you've got a woman living alone and single and 16, 19, how dare she not have a husband? That kind of thing. It is a thoughtful and meaningful one. So it is ultimately a story about family, legacy, and courage. It is a debut novel, so she did a very good job for her first book. And then, I picked it up just because of the cover, and I'm glad I did, and it certainly panned out. That's wonderful, so that is Wayward. Okay.
We're just gonna mention that certainly goes along with, we probably talked about this in different discussions, how important a cover
Oh, yeah.
is and how little control the author has. So she lucked out.
Yeah, she did. All right.
Okay, Happy Place by Emily Henry. She is a master romance novelist. So Happy Place follows the relationship between Harriet Kilpatrick. She's a surgical resident, and huge conflict avoider, and Wynn Connor, her soulmate, who is also her ex-fiance. After they dated for 8 years, they separate and they break their engagement basically without telling their friends. So they're college friends, they have the same friend group, they've moved on into their 20s and gotten jobs and everything, and they still, their group has kind of remained intact. So during their group's annual gathering at their Happy Place, which is a cottage in Maine, Harriet and Wynn continue to pretend that they're in love for their friends' sakes. But they soon find that it's really difficult to keep pretending they're engaged, lie to their friends, and really hide their true feelings. Well, the heart of the book is the romance between Harriet and Wynn. It's the scenes with the friends that kind of had me a little teary-eyed. I really like this author. She's able to give, she did so in this book, all sides, all of the side characters, like meaningful backstories. So it's just interesting to read about these side characters and their stories and, the issues that they're struggling with. Anybody who is not a romance reader and kind of dismisses it as fluff, at least with Emily Henry, I really do not believe that to be true, because she is also very witty. So you have a romance going on. I think you've read some Emily Henry before. There's a lot of banter, and I really enjoy it. So it's like a perfect summer read. I really recommend it. I really loved it. It was a pretty quick read. So if you're not a romance reader, but you're like, maybe I'll try, this is a good way to go. And if you like rom-coms, again, even if you don't, I think it's the humor and the wittiness that kind of save it from being sort of what your typical romance would be. And that Happy Place.
Okay, this is not a romance. I have one weird one. This is my one weird one that I am recommending. And it was a doozy. For those who don't mind a little scare, How to Sell a Haunted House by Bernie Hendricks. I think it was one of the best horror thriller books of 2023. I also read it during spooky season in October, which is a very good call. It's perfect timing. So horror master Grady Hendricks, he's written several other horror books. This is one that came out in this past year. Takes on the haunted house genre and a thrilling new novel that explores the ways that your past and your family can haunt you like nothing else. The story starts with Louise. She's a single mother living in San Francisco, focusing on her career and her living girl. She's mostly estranged from her family, and her parents, and certainly from her troublesome brother, Mark. But one night, Mark calls her and casually informs her that her parents died in a car accident, but accidentally forgot to tell her for 2 days. Yeah, that kind of relationship. So reluctantly, Louise goes back to her childhood home, just getting settled. And this home just happens to be filled with maybe all the dolls and puppets her mother has collected over her entire lifetime. Because of course it is. Louise just wants to get rid of everything and just go back to her life in San Francisco, but her mother just keeps pushing her buttons as only siblings can. And Louise is tempted to give it up and run away, but she can't let her brother win, and the house certainly has no intention of letting any of them go. The siblings realize that there's something truly threatening in the place, and it's more than just bad energy, something that a quick sage won't handle. There's something very dangerous giving life to those puppets, and there's something in the house that is just so angry, it has no intention of going anywhere without taking them first. This is a horror book, first and foremost, so, be warned, but it's also full of character development. It has some funny moments, as only horror can, when it turns into the absurd and it just gets you kind of like, what the heck? It does have some heartwarming instances where a family actually does rise to the occasion. You do enjoy Louise and Mark's sibling relationship dynamics and how their unreliable perspectives kind of affected their lives and kind of both their memories are so subjective that what they thought was true wasn't in fact true. So if you like family drama and can deal with a haunted dollhouse theme, you're in the right place.
I'm intrigued now.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm looking for something spooky in October this coming year, there you go.
Okay, yours truly, author Abby Jimenez, April 2023 it came out. It's a contemporary romance. It's about two emergency room doctors. They are both recovering from messy breakups, and they end up forming a close friendship that could be something more. So Dr. Brianna Ortiz has enough on her plate. She's in the midst of finalizing a divorce. Her brother's on a deadline to find a kidney donor. Now she has to worry about this new doctor, Jacob Maddox, who's there, and he's trying to nab her promotion. So Jacob, though, is maybe not exactly what he seems. He has pretty severe social anxiety, and he doesn't make the best first impression on Bree. He's like yelling at her after she bumped into him, rushing around. So to make amends, he writes a letter to explain himself and apologize. And then once she gets that letter, she starts to kind of see a little bit different side of him, and she starts kind of softening towards him. So she realizes that he's not there to undermine her, and he kind of gets to see in turn her vulnerable side, because she comes across as a very in charge type of person. So she kind of lets him see, another side of herself. So when Jacob offers to be Bree's brother's kidney donor, things really heat up between them. So what is it that is keeping them from each other? The answer really is not much. Each of them is carrying some heavy baggage from other relationships, but it seems like kind of a minor obstacle when compared to the real connection that they have. So this is cute. This is a cute one. Kind of slow burn romance, plenty of funny moments, some emotional challenges between the two of them. And the focus seems to be on the two main characters finally realizing what's in front of them all along. So that's yours truly. I thought it was cute. So if you're looking for something light, this is a good choice.
Okay, so next is The Art Thief, a true story of love, crime, and dangerous obsession by Michael Finkel. I enjoy some true crime here and there, so The Art Thief was definitely on my list for best books. It is true crime, but there's no murder, no blood, just a man and his brazen thievery of more than 300 pieces of art. Michael Finkel has written an unusual true crime book here that outlines the criminal career of Stefan Wisner. It's French, so. A Frenchman who has one obsession, his one true love is art, namely works of art from the 17th century, because according to him, he's not picky, he just has good taste. So this obsession drives Stefan to steal countless artifacts from churches and museums all across Europe. And accompanying him is his girlfriend who acts as a lookout. Is she a driving force in his obsession, kind of, negging him on, or is she held hostage out of fear of his fanaticism of art solely for personal pleasure? That can be up to you to decide. So the story is a wild ride, especially since it is all true. I do recommend this book to any true crime enthusiasts, especially those interested in art crime or maybe a little bit of psychology, because this guy is just, there's something else going on up there. Got him to do all this. It is a quick read, little over 200 pages, so you'll be in and out in a flash.
Okay, romantic comedy is by Curtis Sittenfeld. I love this author. She is a New York Times bestselling author of Prep, American Life, Eligible, which was one of my favorites, modern retelling of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. And anybody who knows me knows that I'm a huge Jane Austen fan. So I really enjoy reading that. This, I thought the story was hilarious. And it had some tender aspects to it too. So Sally Mills is a sketch writer for the Night Owls, which is a late night live comedy show that airs each Saturday. She's got a couple of heartbreaks under her belt. She's long abandoned the search for love, settling instead on the occasional hookup, career success, because she is very successful, and a close relationship with her stepfather. That kind of rounds out her pretty fulfilling life. But when Sally's fellow writer, Danny Force, begins dating this glamorous actress, he joins this group of talented but average-looking dorky men on the show who have gotten romantically involved with incredibly successful, talented, beautiful women. So Sally takes her annoyance at this and channels it into a sketch that she calls the Danny Force Rule. And she's poking fun at the fact that the average-looking man can date beautiful women, successful women, but the reverse is often not true. Enters Noah Brewster. He's a pop musician with a reputation for dating models, and he signs on as a guest for the show. So Sally is immediately dazzled by his charms, even though she doesn't want to be. And she's a pretty tough nut to crack. But they hit it off instantly, and they collaborate on one sketch after another, and she begins to think that maybe there are sparks flying. But this isn't a romantic comedy. It's real life. And in real life, somebody like him would never date somebody like her, right? So in this, as I said before, I really, really like this author. She explores the wonder of love, while she does a really good job at dissecting the social rituals of romance and gender relations that are occurring in the modern age. So there's a lot of wit, sarcasm, and just very sharp observations. Very enjoyable.
Last one from me. So this, I cannot stop recommending this book. It is the only one left by Riley Sager. It takes place in 1983, and the story follows home health aide Kit, who has been assigned to work with Lenora Hope. Rumor has it that Lenora is the sole survivor and main suspect of the Hope family massacre of 1929. The crime is so infamous in the area that there's even a little creepy song about it in the style of Lizzie Borden. Regardless of her past, Lenora is now a woman in her seventies. She's mute, she's incapacitated in a wheelchair after a series of strokes. Lenora is completely dependent on Kit for her daily care, and her only means of communicating with her is through an old typewriter. She can do one key at a time. One night through her typing, Lenora makes Kit an offer. She wants to tell her everything about what happened that night in 1929. What follows is a deep dive into complicated and haunting past of Lenora Hope as Kit attempts to figure out who's really responsible for the death of the entire Hope family. So this is a very twisty thriller. You know, you're gonna be always looking to try and figure out what's going on, who did it, that kind of thing. And the twists and turns keep on coming, so it is a wild ride. I have to say the novel feels dangerous the whole time for some reason. You're on the edge of a cliff, both, you know, in the story with the house being on the edge of the cliff and also just waiting to see what else happens. It's engrossing, it's very memorable from Sager, and I plan to read his other novels. This is my first one of his, and I'm glad I did. I plan to read the rest of his collection. And speaking of which, he has another one coming out this year, so that's good.
I think I'm gonna put that on my list.
Yeah, it's very good.
It's a little outside of my, which is why, I mean, it sounds interesting. Okay, and this one is the last one of the 2023 recommendations. This is Tom Lake by Ann Patchett. This is a really moving novel that centers on family, love, and growing up. In the spring of 2020, Laura, main character, her three daughters returned to the family's orchard in northern Michigan. While picking cherries, they begged their mother to tell them the story of Peter Duke, who is a famous actor who she once shared both a stage and a romance with years earlier at a theater company called Tom Lake. And so the book, in the book, Laura just is recalling her past, and it brings up a lot of things for the daughters that cause them to examine their own lives, things that they didn't necessarily know about their mother, about her past, and it sort of redefines their relationship with her. And they are forced to reconsider everything that they had known about their mother and knew about a mother. So I would say it's kind of described as like a meditation on youthful love, married love, and the lives that parents have before their children are born, or even things that they've done, you know, in their lives that their children aren't aware of. And it's that, you know, I can see it now. I've got, you know, daughters who are young adults now, and, you know, there are things that I'll share or they'll ask now and they'll be like really surprised. And I think, you know, we all view our parents in a certain way. And when you find out things, I know some things I found out after I lost both my parents after they had passed too. And you're like, wow, you know, this really is, this person really does have a role other than being my mom or being my dad, or so there was a lot of that in here. So she is a New York Times bestselling author. She's known for books like The Dutch House, Commonwealth, and Bel Canto. So I really like her as an author.
All right, so we're gonna speed run. So coming soon to the library, we've got new books that we are looking forward to in the new year. A lot of these are obviously not gonna be out yet, so you can just kind of put them on your hold list. Oh, looks like you're starting.
I guess I'm starting. So I know you guys know this, but these are books we have not yet.
I hope not.
So we haven't gotten, you know, like copies ahead of time or anything like that. Okay, so funny story, Emily Henry. I already did speak about Emily Henry, author of Happy Place and Book Lovers. This is a funny, joyful novel about a pair of opposites with the wrong things in common. So the story follows a woman named Daphne, whose fiance leaves her for his childhood best friend. In an unbelievable twist of fate, Daphne becomes roommates with Miles, who is the childhood best friend's ex-boyfriend. Say that 3 times fast. So chaos ensues. As I've said before, I really like this author. Her brand of romance has sharp wit, and along with it, pretty believable stories, relatable stories.
Okay, so next is The Life Impossible by Matt Haig. It's going to be published in September. For those who love The Midnight Library, Matt Haig is back with his next book, The Life Impossible. It's gonna be a long wait. It's in September. The cover hasn't even been revealed yet. I'm just a stand, this placeholder. But it sure to be a wild ride of adventures, deep transformations, and glorious heartwarming characters. And I'm looking forward to it because The Midnight Library was excellent, excellent. So, see if you can pull it off again. Right.
End of Story by H.A. Finn. It's coming out in March 6th. This is a spellbinding thriller from the author of the #1 New York Times bestseller, The Woman in the Window. An avid mystery reader is invited by her favorite novelist to his San Francisco home to tell his story in the hope of unraveling the truth behind a tragedy. I'm looking forward to that one.
So, Come and Get It by Kylie Reed. Supposedly came out 2 days ago, so we'll see. This is from the celebrated best-selling author of Such a Fun Age. That was her last book. And that did very well as well. I did not read it, but I heard wonderful things about it. This is a fresh and provocative story about a residential assistant and her messy entanglement with a professor and 3 unruly students. It's sure to be tension-filled story about money, indiscretion, and bad behavior. So come and get it.
Rachel Hawkins, the heiress, actually is out. She is the author of The Villa and anybody read The Wife Upstairs? The Wife Upstairs. So she returns with a twisted new Gothic suspense about an infamous heiress and the complicated inheritance that she left behind. There's nothing as good as the rich gone bad. Is the quote. The author is sure to include her usual twists and surprises that will make this a true thrill ride and an ominous tale of murder as well as greed.
All right, next is my book review. We've got The Familiar by Leah Bardugo coming out in April. For fans of the Ninth House series and the Grishaverse, comes Leah Bardugo's next standalone novel. It is standalone, it's not part of any series. It is a highly anticipated historical fantasy set during the Spanish Golden Age. It is supposedly inspired by the author's own family history, so it should be an intense read. She does wonders with fantasy world, so I'll have to see what she's got in store with the standalone. Yeah.
All right, The Women. Kristen Hanna, I'm sure that we all know her. This is coming out in February 15th, and just a few. She's written The Great Alone, The Nightingale, many others. This is the story of one woman gone to war, but it shines a light on all women who put themselves in harm's way and whose sacrifice and commitment to their country has too often been overlooked. It's a novel about deep friendships, bold patriotism, that historical fiction fans and fans of the author's other books will love. I'm looking forward to this one.
What's the time period?
No,
I mean, the time period.
It's Vietnam War.
I think I'm not sure. I think it is, but I'm not sure.
Vietnam.
Yeah, I can't remember what else I read about it. Do you remember?
Helicopter makes me think of
Yeah,
like.
that's what I-
Yeah.
Well, that's what I thought.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, next we have The Fury by Alex I believe.
I know.
Sure. Coming out, I think next week in January. He is the author of The Silent Patient and The Maidens. I finally read The Silent Patient recently. I know I was extremely late to the party, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I'll have to check this one out too. Looking forward to his next thriller, which is about a reclusive, ex-movie star and her famous friends go on a spontaneous trip to a private Greek island. That sounds fancy enough, but let's spice it up with some murder.
Yeah.
That's all I know about it. But yeah, should be good. He tends to write those, twisty psychological thrillers. And it should be just as good.
Okay, Only If You're Lucky by Stacy Willingham. It's coming out this month, the 16th. This tale is from New York Times bestselling author of Flicker in the Dark and All the Dangerous Things. It is a sharp and twisty exploration of female friendship. It's a tantalizing thriller that focuses on the nature of friendship, belonging, loyalty, envy, betrayal. It should be a dark and somewhat dangerous read. It's unbelievable. I hope you guys aren't too uncomfortable with
I can turn off the air.
it. Maybe. We haven't, the heat is not working well in this room. It blows for about 15 minutes and then we start getting air conditioning.
Okay, so we have Riley Sager again. Oh my goodness. So Middle of the Night by Riley Sager coming out in June. I loved The Only One Left that came out the past year, obviously, based on my recommendation. He's got even more books in his back catalog that is on my list of things to read. But I am still excited for this new novel that is coming out during the summer. In this thriller, a man must contend with the long ago disappearance of his childhood best friend and the dark secrets lurking just beyond the safe confines of a picture perfect suburban neighborhood. So it should be good if you like a thriller.
It's actually looking something up about this book.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. 14 Days by Margaret Atwood. That is coming out February 6th. It is set in a Lower East Side tenement in the early days of the COVID-19 lockdowns. It is a surprising and irresistible novel with an unusual twist. Each character in this diverse, eccentric cast of New York neighbors has been secretly written by a different major literary voice, from Margaret Atwood and Douglas Preston to Tommy Orange and Celeste Nye. So I think this sounds really interesting, having all of those fantastic authors with a voice in between the cover of one book. So I'm looking forward to this.
It's different.
Yeah.
All right, here we have Somewhere Beyond the Sea, another fantasy book by TJ Klune coming out in September. Somewhere Beyond the Sea is the hugely anticipated sequel to Klune's The House in the Cerulean Sea. The first novel was a best-selling fantasy for teens and won several awards 1 or 2 years ago. For those looking for a young adult read and a magical fantasy, this is your pick. Yeah, that should be good.
So now we have Expiration Dates by Rebecca Cyril, coming out in March, early March. Being single is like playing the lottery. There's always the chance that with one piece of paper, you could win it all. So from the New York Times bestselling author of In 5 Years and One Italian Summer comes a romance that will define, a generation. This is sure to be an emotional, heartbreaking novel about what it means to be single, what it means to find love, and ultimately how we define each of them for ourselves.
Thank you, ladies. This was great.
Bye.
Okay, this is Unsinkable by Jenny Walsh, that came out 2 days ago or so. Alert, this is a Titanic book. I love a Titanic book. It could be fiction, nonfiction, or heck, even poetry. Yes, that does exist, and I did read it. Here's a historical fiction book based on the real person, Violet Jessup. Violet worked as a stewardess, excuse me, and survived the sinking of 3 ships, including the Titanic. This earned her the name of Miss Unsinkable. This is not a biography. There is a fictional plot line to it, but it is based on a real person, and I'm excited to read it nonetheless. And it's already up now, so it's on my hold list.
I want to say something, not about this book, but just it's a little bit relatable. So my daughter's boyfriend gave my husband a 3D puzzle for Christmas. Has anybody ever seen a 3D puzzle? And it is of the Titanic.
Oh my gosh.
And my husband did it, and you should have seen this. There were wires, if you know what I'm talking
I've
about,
seen them, I have not done.
like everywhere. I'm like, what is this? But we have this gorgeous Titanic that lights up in our, yeah, I'd never even heard of a 3D puzzle. Yeah, anyway. So, what am I doing? There you go. I like the Titanic as well. Wandering Stars, by Tommy Orange, coming out early March. Discover the story of a Native American community told through generations, from the author of the New York Times bestseller, They're There. Following its unforgettable characters through almost 2 centuries of history, from the horrors of the Sand Creek Massacre of 1864 to the aftermath of the shooting in the early 21st century, Wandering Stars is an indelible novel of America's war on its own people. That has captured my attention.
All right, then we have The Briar Club by Kate Flynn, coming out in July. I fell in love with Kate Flynn as a writer of historical fiction ever since The Rose Code. I'm doing my best to read all of her novels, but they tend to be massive 500-page books. So it takes a while, but this is Kate Flynn's next novel, coming out late 2024. It's supposed to be a haunting and powerful story of female friendships and secrets in Washington, D.C., in a boarding house during the McCarthy era. A bit more on the recent side of history for me, but I'm sure it'll be just as good. That is The Briar Club.
So Jen actually got me onto Kate Flynn. I think the Rose.
The Rose Code,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I really, really like her. After Annie by Anna Quinlan, probably most of us know Anna Quinlan. This is coming out on March 12th. And if you don't know her, she's author of many books, but Still Life with Breadcrumbs is one that you might recognize. So this is a beautifully written story about a family who loses their mother and wife to a tragic sudden death. Her children, her husband, and her lifelong best friend struggle to deal with their grief and try to move on. I've read a number of books by Anna Quinlan. Every Last One, I don't know if any of you have read that, but it was somewhat along the same lines. And Black and Blue, which was about domestic abuse. She is just a master at, I think, capturing like the human condition. And with some of her works, I have to kind of prepare myself. Every Last One had like a terrible tragedy in it, but she's such a good writer that it's one of those things that maybe if somebody else had written a story about that, I wouldn't have read it, but because she was the author, I did, and I always come away from them being like definitely emotionally impacted. So I don't read her all the time, but I love her. I have to kind of be prepared when I read some of her things.
You bookend it with the.
Yes, with the rom-coms
There
we've
you
been
go.
talking about, yes.
Okay, so next we have Book of Thorns by Hester Fox, coming out in April. I'm a sucker for a good gothic thriller, and I enjoyed her previous book, that last aired at Blackwood Library, which was richly eerie and hauntingly atmospheric. Really can't ask for more from a gothic thriller. So with this historical fiction story, it's going to take place during the Napoleonic Wars. hot right now, especially with the Napoleon movie that just came out. I don't really know much about that era, so I might learn a thing or two with this one. But it's good.
Okay, table for two, Immortals, coming out early April. This is the author of A Gentleman in Moscow and Rules of Civility. This is touted as a richly detailed collection of stories, including a novella featuring one of his most beloved characters. Millions of Immortals fans are in for a treat as he shares some of his shorter fiction, 6 stories that are based in New York City, and a novella set in Golden Age Hollywood. I thought this sounded really interesting.
Different compared to his giant.
Yeah,
Gentleman in Moscow one.
yeah.
All right, here we have Diva by Daisy Goodwin, coming out later this month in January. I know Daisy from, she's the author of Victoria. That Victoria novel was then turned into the PBS, TV series.
Oh.
It was a wonderful show, never came back.
I love the show.
But in any case, it's been a while since I've read anything from Daisy Goodwin, so I'm interested to see what she has in store. This is a historical fiction novel about Maria Callas.
Callas, yeah.
Callas, yeah, thank you. One of the most celebrated opera singers ever. I've never heard of her, so I'll definitely learn something when I read it. Okay.
She's Not Sorry, Mary Kubica, if that's how you pronounce it. Early April, this book is coming out. It's a chilling thriller, which features Megan Michaels, who is an ICU nurse who accidentally uncovers a patient's terrifying past, all while being a single mom raising a teenage daughter. She's the New York Times bestselling author of Local Women, Missing, and Just the Nicest Couple. And I did read that one.
All right, so here we have Everyone on This Train is a Suspect, by Benjamin Stevenson, coming out later this month. I'm so excited. I read his first mystery, Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone. Great title, great cover, great story. That was his debut novel, which was witty, unpredictable, and hoped fun, the typical mystery genre tropes. So I'm excited to see what he has in store for this one. It also follows some of the same characters as his first novel, so I don't have to learn anything new. I get to continue on. And in this case, we're in a locked room murder mystery, but set on a train. So that should be really fun.
So, Abby Menez is coming up again, just for the summer. We talked about her. Her book is coming out in early April. She's also the author of Yours Truly and The Friend Zone. I did read The Friend Zone. That was really cute. She's known, as we've talked about, for her irresistible rom-coms that star lovable but carefully constructed characters. This latest novel is about 2 people who define themselves as the person people are with right before they meet their true love. So when Justin and Emma meet on the internet, they decide to date in the hopes of canceling their bizarre bad luck. But of course, they soon start to legitimately fall for each other, even as their fun summer fling becomes increasingly complicated with family drama.
Okay, so here we have The Phoenix Crown by another Kate Quinn novel. Oh my goodness, 2 in 1 year. This time Kate Quinn is co-writing with Janie Chang, another historical fiction novel about a legendary relic of China that has been lost to time. I'm not sure if it's real or not. Not sure about the historical part of that, but the book spans the time frame of the Great San Francisco earthquake of 1906 to the glittering palaces of Versailles. So we're all over the place historically, so we'll have to see what happens there. But it is interesting that Kate is teaming up with another author for this, her second book of the year coming out in February. That should be interesting.
The Breakup Pact by Emma Lord is not coming out until, it looks like August, maybe mid-August. The story is about two best friends who haven't spoken in 10 years, and they pretend to date after breakups with their respective exes go viral. In this fun and emotional new novel from the New York Times bestselling author Emma Lord. She is also the author of Tweet Cute and Begin Again. And one thing that we noticed going through looking at these 2024 things coming out that people are excited about, a lot of rom-coms.
Yeah. A lot of rom-coms, a lot of
A
historical
lot of
fiction.
historical fiction.
I know that happened. Okay, so here we have The Teacher by Frida McFadden. Frida is making waves with her Housemaid series, but this is her standalone, a psychological thriller. Seems like it's gonna be a story of twisting secrets, long-awaited revenge, for those looking for that kind of taste. I have never actually read any of Frida McFadden's, but she is certainly gaining in popularity based on how often her books have been requested at the library. So she's someone to watch, see what else she's got in here.
Has anyone seen Charlotte Salter, by the author Nikki French, coming out in March, mid-March? She is the best-selling author of Blue Monday. This is advertised as being a nerve-tingling and atmospheric thriller from the master of suspense. The story is about two families shattered by tragedy and the secrets that they've been waiting decades to be revealed.
Right, so this is Darling Girls by Sally Hepworth, going to be published in April. Sally Hepworth is the author of The Good Sister. We just did that, it was one of our recent book discussions. And this is her next novel. It is another domestic thriller. Sally does that a lot. She takes domestic, thrillers and suspense and makes a wonderful novel. This time the thriller focuses on three foster sisters who grew up in a foster home. Once they're all grown and living their not so best lives, they each receive a phone call from the police about the discovery of human remains at their old foster home. And they're pulled back in and cue the secrets and the twisting turns. Good.
Okay, Jan Carson is the author here. Title is Quickly While They Still Have Horses. Yeah, it's like, what is this? It's coming out in April. This contains 16 sparkling, engrossing short stories. All aspects of life are in these stories. The thrill of growing up, the grief when youth is over, first love, mature love, parenthood, loss, all written with compassion, wit, and a lot of imagination. I thought the title was, I thought, really great.
All right, here we have The Union of Unrest. The full title is A Saga of Hubris, Heartbreak, and Heroism at the Dawn of the Civil War. It is an Eric Larson book, coming out in April. I am very excited. I love an Eric Larson book. Huge fan of his historical nonfiction. He's done Devil in the White City, which everyone knows at this point. And I really enjoyed his Dead Weight about the Lusitania disaster. It's been a couple of years since his last book, so he was due for one, and I'm looking forward to it. This time he brings to life the pivotal 5 months between the election of Abraham Lincoln and the start of the Civil War. The crisis that finally tore the deeply divided nation into two. So that's his focus this time. I'm very much looking forward to April.
The Book of Love by Kelly Lake, coming out soon, to early February. In this long-awaited novel, and she's a best-selling author and a Pulitzer Prize finalist, Kelly Lake was. 3 teenagers become pawns in a supernatural power struggle. Link is best known for her short stories that cover a wide range of genres, from magic realism to fantasy and horror. She is an American author best known for her short stories. Pretty Monsters, I think, and Magic for Beginners were ones that you might be familiar with. So I'm looking forward to this.
All right, here we have The Princess of Las Vegas by Chris, Bojalian? Sure. Coming out in March. This is the same author of The Flight Attendant and Midwives. In this thriller of a novel, a Princess Diana impersonator and her estranged sister find themselves drawn into a dangerous game of money, murder, in the twisting tale of organized crime, cryptocurrency, and family secrets on the Las Vegas Strip. Sure to be a wild ride. Seems different than what he's done before.
Yes, it does.
I had to double check, I'm like, that is the guy, right? Yeah, that's him.
He doesn't usually write in this era, he has to go back.
Yeah,
Well, I've read everyone, I've got every one of his books.
so, I mean, maybe it's more closely to his, like, The Flight Attendant, which was kind of like, a thriller suspense kind of thing.
It
But
might
this
be.
seems different. But yeah, so we'll see what he comes up with.
Okay, Bear by Julia Phillips, not coming out until June and latter part of June. Is a mesmerizing novel about two sisters on a Pacific Northwest island whose lives are upended by an unexpected visitor. A tale about family, obsession, and a mysterious creature in the woods. She is also the best-selling author of Disappearing Earth. Disappearing Earth.
Okay, so this is The Last Murder at the End of the World by Stuart Turton, coming up in May. I loved his first and debut novel, The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn. You go. I know, Hardcastle, kind of title. That was a kind of like a fantasy, mystery, sci-fi thriller. It was a trip. And I'm very excited to see what he has come up with now. This time it's a little bit of a thriller, mystery, sci-fi, and dystopia. That's a new genre for him. This new novel is reported to be a high concept, that means murder mystery with puzzles, and a very extraordinary backdrop, and a very interesting solution to the whole thing. So he tends to write out of the box, so I'm curious to see what he's got in store with this. Seems like it's at the end of the world or something. Okay.
Murder Road by Simone St. James, coming out in March. Also the author of the Book of Cold Cases. I don't know if anybody's read that. I have not, but I wanted to. It's about a young couple that find themselves haunted by a string of gruesome murders committed along an old deserted road. And the novel is supposed to be twisty with lots of turns and also terrifying. Murder Road.
It's a Halloween read for you.
There you go. Okay, here we have Finding Margaret Fuller by Alison Pataki, coming out in March. Alison is the author of The Magnificent Lives of Marjorie Post. That one was the wonderful retelling of the real life heiress of the Post dynasty company, and she was one of the richest women in the world at the time. This time, Alison dives into the epic reimagining of the life of Margaret Fuller, America's forgotten leading lady and a central figure of the transcendental, oh my God, these words, transcendentalist movement that defined the nation. I've never heard her name before, so it is a historical fiction, so I'd be interested to learn more about her life. I have no idea. So we'll have to see, coming out in March.
Daughter of Mine by Megan Miranda, coming out in April. This is a thriller. Megan Miranda is a New York Times bestselling author of All the Missing Girls, The Last to Vanish, and The Only Survivors. So the story is about Hazel Sharp, who is the daughter of Mirror Lake's longtime local detective. She unexpectedly inherits her childhood home. And so she is warily drawn back to the town and the people that she left behind for a very good reason a decade earlier. more to come.
All right, The Housemaid is Watching, again by Frida McFadden, coming out in June. I have to admit, again, I've not read any of her books, but her popularity has increased a lot this year, similar to Colleen Hoover. This is the third in her series of The Housemaid, a series that is said to be twisty, tension-packed thriller, all of that jazz. Supposedly, this one can be enjoyed as a standalone, as a third book, we'll see. But, you know, if, for those who, want to dive right in, supposedly you can do that with this third one as well. So we'll have to see, I don't know.
Okay, this is actually my last one. Is it the last one?
No, I don't want to.
You got one more,
Yeah.
okay. One of You by Erin E. Adams, coming out in April, the end of April. This is about a mysterious outsider that torments two Haitian American sisters, forcing them to confront their dark secrets from their family's past. This is a powerful psychological suspense novel. And Erin Adams is also the author of Jackal. I don't know if anybody's read that. I have not.
All right, last but not least, we have The Midnight Feast by Lucy Foley coming out in June. I love Lucy Foley's Playing the Fame novel, The Guest List. That got me involved with her writing. She also did The Paris Apartment and The Hunting Party. So this one is supposed to be another locked room murder mystery. I'm sensing a theme for 2024. But this time we're in a luxury resort in the middle of the woods. I'm very much looking forward to it, and I also want to see the cover. So sad. But Lucy has yet to disappoint me, so I'll have to see what else she's got going on, coming out in June. Really nice. So with that, that's all of what we're excited about. I hope you have something, you know, you can jot a couple down and put some stuff on hold. And thank you all for coming.
Thank you very much for listening.